Hello, and welcome to another video from 3.5 Archive. Today, we're going to be doing our 59th D&D 3.5 Prestige class review, and we're going to be looking at the Eldritch Theurge Prestige class from the Complete Mage Sourcebook. Eldritch Theurges are a combination of Arcane Spellcaster and Warlock. You're going to need to have some levels in Warlock and some levels in some Arcane Spellcasting class, most likely Sorcerer or War Mage or something Charisma-based, because that will complement the Warlock's charisma-based abilities nicely. And Eldritch Theurge, as the name kind of implies, is a lot like Mystic Theurge in that it's meant to combine these two classes. It gives you advancement in both of their spellcasting abilities, or invocation use in this case. And being an Eldritch Theurge is your best bet at multi-classing between the two and actually remaining relevant in the game. So it's a good prestige class for that right off the bat. Let's look at if that's actually a good option for your character and if there's really going to be any use to it. Because you can definitely multi-class any two classes, but for the most part, a lot of these combinations are going to make characters that just won't end up being very fun to play past, level 7 or 8, because they're going to be unable to really hit higher level creatures. They're going to be unable to damage higher level creatures in an effective way, and you'll just end up dissatisfied with them in many cases. That's not to say that odd multi-class combinations can't be a lot of fun at low levels or even high levels, but generally speaking, you want to have some sort of plan, and the Eldritch Theurge helps alongside the similar prestige classes like the Mystic Theurge in doing that. So to be an Eldritch Theurge, you're going to need 8 ranks in Knowledge Arcana and 8 ranks in Knowledge of the Planes. That's not too much of an ask, although you're going to want to at least have a decent intelligence in order to get all of those skill ranks. And you're going to want to have 2nd level arcane spells. You're going to need to have 2nd level arcane spells and 2d6 Eldritch Blast, as well as the ability to use least invocations. So you're going to need to be at least a 3rd level Warlock and at least a 3rd level Arcane Spellcaster. You're probably going to be a 4th one because you're probably going to be doing a charisma-based spontaneous spellcaster that's not going to get 2nd level spells until 4th level. So you're probably going to be coming into this prestige class after level 7, which isn't too bad. You have the option to go in earlier. If you rolled really, really well on your intelligence and charisma and have decent stats beyond that, then you can probably get into this at level 6, after level 6. But more than likely, you're going to want to get into it after level 7. You're probably going to want to be a sorcerer, unless you're really backing up your group in the arcane spell versatility department. You are going to want to have a good intelligence anyway, though, because like I said, you're going to have 8 ranks in Knowledge Arcana and 8 ranks in Knowledge of the Planes. And because of that, you're going to have at least a +1 intelligence or be a human. So, because you're going to want to have ranks in concentration as well, just in case, and probably have ranks in spellcraft too. So this prestige class is moderately restrictive. You would think for such a multi-class combination as it has, that it would be a little bit more open, but this really isn't too much of an ask, especially with what it's going to be giving you. So you're going to get a D4 hit die, 3/4 your level base attack bonus, a goodwill save, and 2+ intelligence modifier skill points. Your skill list will be pretty similar to that of the sorcerer. You're not going to get all the knowledge skills, so if you are playing a wizard, you're going to have to pick and choose, but you will get the important ones. And being an Eldritch Theurge is going to sort of mimic the progression of a warlock, but it's going to give you some new features as well. So, as an Eldritch Theurge at level 1 and at every other level of the prestige class, you're going to get a +1 to your existing arcane spellcasting class and your existing invocation using class. So you're going to be, by the time you finish this prestige class at 17th level, you're going to be the equivalent of a 13th level Warlock and a 14th level Sorcerer, most likely. So you're going to be there with 7th level spells, you're going to have higher level invocations, which is going to be pretty good. You're not going to be having the most powerful spells in the game, but you will manage to get them if you go back into Sorcerer by higher levels. It's not the best option for necessarily reaching the absolute heights of arcane power, but that's not always necessary. And if you have a wizard in the party and you're the secondary arcane spellcaster, you can definitely feel free to go for this and have as much fun as you want with all the various features. So, you're going to get at level 1 damage reduction 1/cold iron, which is going to be self-explanatory, and it's going to be similar to what the Warlock gets already. So you're going to be getting this at 8th level. That's decent enough. You're going to be getting damage reduction 2/cold iron at 4th level in this prestige class, 3/cold iron at 7th, and 4/cold iron at 10th. So this will progress fairly nicely compared to the Warlock, who's going to get, you're already going to have some damage reduction of 1/Cold Iron at 3rd level of Warlock, which you're going to have. And you're actually going to end up a little bit ahead of the game in some ways. You're going to have 5/Cold Iron damage reduction at level 17 when you're finishing this prestige class, whereas most straight Warlocks would still have just gotten their damage reduction 4/Cold Iron. So overall, you do get a little bit more. You're also going to get Fiendish Resilience, which is going to let you do fast healing once per day as a free action for 2 minutes. So you're going to regain 20 hit points from this. So assuming you have the time to do so, you're going to save the cleric a little bit of spellcasting. At 9th level in this prestige class, so level 16 as a character, you're going to get fast healing 2 instead. And that's not too bad. The Warlock is going to be getting much better Fiendish Resilience, ending up at Fiendish Resilience 5, but healing is not too much of an issue for spellcasters if they're doing their job properly, so you don't have to worry too much there. At 3rd level, you're going to gain the Spell Blast feature. This is an invocation. It's of the lesser tier. It's equivalent spell level 4th, and it's an Eldritch Essence invocation. And it lets you place an arcane spell that affects an area onto your Eldritch Blast. So if you hit a target with your Eldritch Blast, the spell's area is centered on any corner of the target space. And this is even if the spell could normally only be centered on the caster. So some of those spells, especially from the spell compendium, that let you unleash kind of an elemental blast in a ring around yourself, they can be applied to this. Now, those spells don't have the greatest damage. They're not exactly higher, tier to make up for the placement limitations that they have. But that is an option if you do have those, that you can place them on this ability, so give them a little bit more flexibility. But more than likely, you're going to be wanting to put your, fireballs, your Autoluke's Freezing Sphere, or something of that sort. It's going to take a 4-round action to do it, and you can only do it with a spell that has a casting time no greater than 1 standard action. That's not too much of a limitation. The full round action is a little bit. The 1 standard action, that's going to be pretty much every area spell. And only the first target of the Eldritch Blast is going to be affected by the spell, so you can't use the Eldritch Chain to hit multiple targets and set off the spell multiple times. But if it doesn't specify a target, you can't apply this invocation to the blast. So you can't do this on an Eldritch Blast that already affects an area and then set off a bunch of overlapping fireballs. They did at least think of that, so you have to give them credit there. But aside from trying to abuse this ability, it is still really nice because you are going to be losing 3 caster levels by putting those 3 levels into Warlock at the start of this class. And likewise, you're going to be losing a couple of dice of damage that you could have had on your Eldritch Blast. So to make up for that, it's going to be really nice to be able to hit a target and then have an area spell overlapped on top of that. You're going to be getting sort of ahead of the game in terms of how much damage you can do. Now, you're not going to be able to get as much mileage out of metamagic as a true, blaster would with, stacking metamagic feats and that sort of thing. So this isn't really the best option for mega damage, but if you're fighting, for example, an ogre that's surrounded by a bunch of hobgoblins, you can hit that ogre with your Eldritch Blast and then set off a fireball on top of that. The fireball will fry all of the lesser creatures around and probably do enough additional damage to finish off the main threat. And while that won't necessarily happen most of the time, you're not going to be wiping out entire encounters with this, it is going to give you a bit of extra mileage out of your spells because you can tack these on for free. And you're going to be basically getting extra damage, you're going to be getting more efficiency out of your actions. So this is a nice ability. It's going to be limited to area spells, of course, but if you're going to be playing an Evocation Wizard, then that's just fine. And this is where this Prestige class is showing itself as being great for a War Mage Warlock combo. The War Mage is already going to be better at blasting spells with their War Mage's Edge and other various abilities, as well as being able to know all of those spells, at least the ones on its spell list. You're going to be knowing a whole bunch of Evocation spells, able to switch between them at any time. So even if you don't run into situations where this is useful, you're not necessarily committing to preparing a fireball or learning a fireball in order to pull it off. So this is a great little feature. At level 5, you're going to gain the Eldritch Spellweave feature. This is going to let you apply an Eldritch Essence invocation to any arcane spell that affects a target or requires a melee or ranged touch attack. And the spell's level must be at least as high as the level of the Eldritch Essence. So you can only apply, Hellrime Blast to a spell of 4th level or higher because it's a 4th level equivalent spell. If the Essence requires a saving throw, use a normal save DC for that Essence. And if it changes a damage spell, it can only be applied to a spell that deals damage. So you can't add a Brimstone Blast to Charm Monster. Well, that's pretty self-explanatory. And again, this is going to increase the spell's casting time to a 4-round action. If it has a normal casting time of a full round or longer, it takes an extra full round action to cast. Okay. And if the spell has more than one target or allows more than one attack, you choose one target to be affected by the invocation, and all other targets take the normal effect of the spell instead. So you can apply this to something like Chain Lightning or, Mass Hold Person or something like that. And this can force them to make a saving throw or be sickened or blinded or any of those other great secondary effects that come on the Essence invocation list, which is really nice. Just being able to apply, a secondary effect of potentially blinding someone along with Hold Person is really great. They're going to have to save against them separately, so they're going to have 2 chances of being debilitated in some way. And this does have a times per day limitation of 3 plus your charisma modifier, but honestly, you're probably not going to be starving for uses of it as long as you are increasing your charisma, and again, playing a single ability dependent character like a sorcerer or war mage along with your warlock is going to help this along quite a bit. You're going to be probably having, 8, 9, 10 uses per day of this at higher levels, and that's going to allow you to use it twice per encounter, which you probably won't even do. So this is a really nice ability. It's a little bit less useful for the war mage in some ways, but if you're going to be shooting off, maybe magic missiles or scorching rays or that sort of thing, then it's going to be helpful for that. Essentially, you're going to have the Spell Blast for when you want to take out a group with raw damage, and you're going to have the Eldritch Spellweave when you want to apply some kind of Essence invocation to one of your targeted spells to add an additional debilitating effect. You won't be able to use something like Hold Person as a war mage, but you will be able to have Scorching Rays and magic missiles and potentially be able to blind somebody with them at higher levels once you get the Beshadowing Blast. And then finally, at level 10, you're going to get the Great Reach Blast. This invocation is a Greater Eldritch Essence invocation of equivalent spell level 5th, and it lets you place an arcane spell with a range of touch upon your Eldritch Blast. And then if your Eldritch Blast hits the target, the spell takes effect on it as if you touched it. And then if it misses, then the spell is lost with no effect. It's going to take a full round action to do it, and it's going to have the same standard action limitation and all that for casting time. And only the first target of the blast will be affected, so you can't do a chain blast or anything like that. But if your Eldritch Blast doesn't specify a target, you're not going to be able to apply this to it at all. And it's treated as a spell with a level equal to the touch spell placed upon it. And this is a great way to hit your target with a Chill Touch, Vampiric Touch, Bestow Curse, Shocking Grasp, or even something really nasty like a Shivering Touch for the Dex Drain, or even at higher levels an Otto's Irresistible Dance or something like that. There's a lot of great touch spells that are held back by the fact that, well, you have to get into melee range to use them, and as an arcane spellcaster, you usually don't want to do that, obviously. So being able to tack that onto your Eldritch Blast and hit them from range is really great. I mean, you could be hitting targets from far, far away if you have the right blast invocations, and this is an excellent capstone feature. It's going to let your wizard, warlock, sorcerer, warlock, whatever, multi-class be able to have a unique ability that lets them take advantage of a class of spells that otherwise don't get a whole lot of use. So overall, the Eldritch Theurge is a great way to boost your invocations and boost your spellcasting. The only issue here is that you're going to run into the problem that a lot of these classes have, which is they have too much ammo for not enough, challenge. I mean, this is a good character for an endurance run where you're going to be wanting to unleash either a decent amount of damage with Eldritch Blast every turn, or, a spell every turn, or be able to combine the two. And being able to combine the two is what's going to come in the most handy in campaigns. Remember that generally speaking, you're going to be fighting the 4 encounters per day, and often less than that in most campaigns realistically. And those combats, at higher levels are going to be lasting less and less time. You can maybe assume an average of 3 rounds, so that's going to give you 12 rounds of combat per day. You're going to have more spell slots than that just as a regular sorcerer or wizard. Having the ability to do an Eldritch Blast every round and be able to use invocations, at will, and then on top of that have sorcerer spellcasting, is going to be of, questionable use in a lot of ways. But fortunately, this Prestige class does make up for it in abilities that let you combine your invocations. This is going to be tilted towards a blaster character, so again, I recommend the War Mage for this one. Although again, a sorcerer is going to have more versatility, and if you do have really good stats to work with, then of course a wizard's going to have the most options there. But the Eldritch Theurge overall is going to get 4 stars for concept and 4 stars for execution. It is a little bit sparse on features, but then again, the Mystic Theurge has barely any features at all. And while it's not considered one of the greatest prestige classes ever, it's at least considered to be a decent one for characters that want to get into that kind of multi-classing. The Eldritch Theurge is going to be maybe not something to necessarily build around for power reasons, but for fun or for, characters or campaigns where you're going to have, long, huge, epic combats, then the Eldritch Theurge can be pretty great. It's going to have a lot of staying power. And it's going to be able to blast or knock out, more powerful foes, and it's going to be able to also, last a long time. It's going to be able to destroy a lot of enemies. If you have a massive city siege, then you're going to be able to knock out foes pretty much every round, as well as being able to, use something good against the more powerful opponents. So that's the Eldritch Theurge. It's a pretty good prestige class overall, definitely worth taking if you're going for this type of character. And even if you're not, it's worth considering, although it's not going to be the most powerful option out there for you. So that'll be it for this D&D 3.5 Prestige Class review. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and so on. I'll leave a comment down below, especially if there's a Prestige class that you want me to look at, or anything else involved in 3.5 that you would like to see a video about. That'll be all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time here on 3.5 Archive.